Good morning. It's April 24th, 2023, and I thought I'd do a different mid-spring walkthrough video than last season. Last season I did it about a week or two later in the phenology than I am this year. So the peach trees were basically finished, the serviceberries were kind of finishing out, and the apple trees were open. This year we're about 2 weeks ahead of schedule compared to last year, which is a little scary because we've still got a good 3 weeks or more of possible frosts here. Last year we had a frost, I think on May 22nd, so maybe up to a month. This is a bad site, gets all the late frosts. But the serviceberries are in full bloom right now, most of them. Some of them are maybe just past peak. Here's a rootstock of a Japanese plum. Don't know what it is. The grafted part died. We'll see. This had flowers last year, but I don't think it had any fruit. This is a peach. I think this is called a galaxy peach, if I'm not mistaken. These are flowering for a longer period. The Nanking cherries flowered for a short time this year, only for about a day and a half in some cases. This quince tree is not flowering yet. So the grass hasn't grown up too much, although it has been growing actively for a week or 10 days. And I've got most of my winter pruning done. Been doing some garden cleanup still, doing a lot of mulching. You'll see I've been trying to redo the main path through the front here, adding some wood chip mulch to these pawpaws here and some other things. The wild American plums are just starting to flower, so you'll see one over here, and I've got a big patch of them back there. The gumi are not quite flowering yet, but they will be soon. Currants, this one is not flowering, but I do have some other currants that are flowering, gooseberries. I've got flowers for the first time on these seedling peaches, these Iowa white and Indian something or other, the Siberian sea type peaches from my friend Michael And in Wisconsin. And what's nice about these is they're flowering about a week later than the normal grafted peaches are, so that's good because that will make them less likely to get zapped by frost at this site, which is really prone to late frosts and early frosts in the fall. So here is American plum in flower. Really nice smell on these. To me it smells a little bit like fresh corn masa. I don't know how to explain that, but there's something sweet and kind of earthy about it. Another Siberian sea type peach here. We had a touch of frost this morning. It's still cold at nighttime. 30s, low 30s. There's a flowering quince. This is kind of almost to peak, or maybe not. There's a lot of unopened buds here, but those are pretty. That's the type that you see, in people's yards all the time. There's a running serviceberry there. Yeah, these apple trees are not ready to flower yet. And likewise, this pear is getting close. This is a European pear called what is this one called? Harrow Sweet, maybe, if I remember right. So those are just about to pop. And the Siberian pea shrub, maybe in a week or so, those will be opening up too. So yeah, this video is probably at least a week to 10 days earlier than the one, maybe a week, than the one I took last spring. So you'll get to see a little bit different stuff blooming. The daffodils are still kind of just finishing off here. Sorry for the uneven lighting here with the heavy shadows. Serviceberries in the hedgerow. I think those are Amelanchier laevis. Those are kind of peaking at the moment. Yeah, still got a few daffodils here. The spring flowers, daffodils and tulips are still happening. Another seedling peach. So I've got 3 of those that are flowering for the first time this year. Pardon the mess, as always. I've been doing a lot of propagation work, potting things up, taking plants out of these raised grow beds that I've made. And I'm not going to go show you every plant, but I'll show you kind of a quick overview of a few. I've got some runners from quinces that I've potted up, some grapes, my vigorous grape that I call Vigoro because I've lost track of the variety. I've got all kinds of stuff. Got some willows, clove currants, 9-bark, brambles, chestnuts, hazelnuts, native roses, a bunch of elderberries, Jerusalem artichokes. I potted some of those up this year, which is good because I need to get those out to more people. Nanking cherries, got more willows I've got to propagate, more chestnuts to plant. These are suckers from my American plum up front from root sprouts that came up. This bed here is just about empty. I got rid of all the nice chestnuts that I had. So I'm gonna plant a bunch, hundreds, at least 100 plus new chestnuts in here this year. Got some persimmons over there. Got a few little babies I've got to put into bigger pots here. Had a collapse. This bed was not built very well, and it failed. The plywood or something failed, so had the soil come out. So I've got to rework this bed or maybe just rebuild it entirely. Got some persimmons in here. These two beds or planters are chinkapin chestnuts. Those started sprouting in the wintertime, fall or early spring. So I've got those in the ground here about a month ago. Here I've got some more cuttings of currants. I've got hickories. I've got American plum, grapes, persimmons, pawpaws, more hickories, and more yet to come in there. And I'm gonna make some new little planters here out of these crate type things to give me more modular stuff that I can move around if I need to. So I've got some grape cuttings and some persimmons that were overcrowded that I've moved into there. I planted a couple of willows, the two willows, Arctic blue I think, and something called purple willow, which the names are kind of deceptive. But there's one planted there, and there's one planted there, two different types. And let's see, this garden here, a perennial changeover garden. I've got some currants flowering. This is a red currant, kind of getting into the flowering time. Honeyberry flowering. This currant is flowering, although the leaves look like they're maybe kissed by frost or something, or hopefully not a disease. Have another currant that was also kind of red tinged like that. Another honeyberry flowering. Another honeyberry flowering there. This beauty over here, this is one of my oikos quinces. And this thing is interesting because the flowers start off almost white, and as it ages they get more pink in color. So when they first come out they're basically just this creamy white, and then as a week or two goes on they turn almost all pink, which is interesting. But a beautiful plant, and I did dig up some suckers of that to share this spring. The nanny berries, they're starting to form their flower parts, but they're not close to opening yet. So these will turn white and be bigger, and those will open in a week or two. So I'm not going to walk through the whole property today because it's freezing outside and my hands are already half frozen from just this couple minutes of video. But here are some wild serviceberries. That's a wild one the birds planted. That's an American plum that I planted. There may be a couple more wild serviceberries here. Here's one right there. There's a serviceberry that I planted straight ahead. Here's my red-leafed apple tree, and I think as the season progresses, the leaves get greener and greener. They start off quite red when they're young, but then it's got some nice growth. That probably grew almost 3 feet last year, 2.5 feet. There's another serviceberry over there in my hedgerow. This wild goose plum thicket here. Oh no, that's an autumn olive there, sorry. The wild goose plum, excuse me, is going to flower here soon. See, it's got its little buds forming, flower buds, so in about a week that should be flowering. I should dig up some suckers of that to share around with people. Yeah, otherwise there's not a hell of a lot going on. I did cut down some sizable trees out here. I may give you a quick view of that. Not much else flowering. The peaches are finishing, redbuds are just starting, so we're kind of Not quite to redbud peak yet. Let's see if I've got any asparagus popping up here. I have seen some wild asparagus. I don't know, I don't want to dig around in the cold. But yeah, the asparagus is starting to pop. Apple's not flowering yet. There's a peach there that's just finishing off. Oh, I wanted to show the trees I cut down. So yeah, I cut down some of the larger trunks of black locust and a couple of trunks of wild cherry. This wild crabapple tree, I did some heavy limbing up, cut down one of the major trunks, trying to focus more of the energy to the grafts that I've done. Here is a black locust that got cut down to give more light to the chestnuts around here. And some of the black locusts and chestnuts also have been limbed up. It's because we don't want branches too low. So this chestnut here limbed up, that chestnut. I took a couple scions from the grafted chestnut I got from Richard Winkle, and I might try grafting those onto a few other chestnuts this year. Haven't done much chestnut grafting in the past. This is a black locust. I took one of the two main stems. I'll take the next one maybe next year. And then I think the same kind of deal over on this one. It was kind of a double trunked deal, and I took one, and the other one will make a good fence post probably next year. So this area that we're standing in was kind of the remnants of what my great-grandparents used to have a vegetable garden. So there are still some flowers, incidental daffodils and lilies, and I think maybe I even have seen irises back here once or twice. So that's interesting, the history of the place. In the distance there, we've got some of these flowering pears. It's probably some of the seed source for all the damn seedling pears that the birds keep planting for me. There's one there, tall, got the narrow growth form. That one back there could be no, its apples aren't really flowering yet, so it's probably a pear. It looks too lush to be a serviceberry. But I do have some wild serviceberries around here. So yeah, dropped a bunch of stuff. I've got to clean up this brush and limb these things up. I was just kind of using my loppers to process some of the smaller branches and lay them down around stuff. You can sort of see the mess here where I've laid down a bunch of debris and focusing that energy toward the chestnut trees that I'm trying to grow. Up through here. And yeah, here was a wild black cherry that had multiple stems. Probably I cut 3 or 4 larger stems down. Left one, so that one maybe in a year or two. That's kind of what those look like. That was probably 10 or 12 years of growth on that. And then this one up here is even a little bit larger. So yeah, I've got to get through here and clean this brush up. I'm thinking about having a party of sorts, a work party, to spread wood chips around the garden, because I've got about a dozen piles of wood chips up there that need to be moved around. But if I'm going to do that, I have to have the paths cleared and everything, and have things kind of orderly for people. So yeah, this one too. This is probably the oldest, largest tree that I've cut down in the garden. Left one trunk and leave that for a while, but that'll give more light to this sad pecan tree that's leaning over at a 45-degree angle for light there. Try to stake that up this year and get it straightened out. And yeah, I don't think there's much else that I really need to show. We'll see if we can see the American plums flowering back here yet. They probably are flowering. I see one serviceberry there and probably an American plum that I transplanted is the one that's a little to the right. Oh yeah, well, blue jay's pissed off that we've disturbed him. So back here, this thicket is, that mound of stuff is all American plum. And it's got some evergreens growing up within it and around it. But yeah, that originally was all one plant, or is one plant. And I want to try to mow around that this year a bit, or scythe, to sort of contain it within a certain area so that I know what's what, because I've planted some other American plums back here And I may even move one of the ones that I just dug up from the front back here to give more pollination. Excuse me. This one here, and probably this one here, and that one there, these are new chestnuts that I planted. No, I'm sorry, this is an American plum. But there are a bunch of new chestnuts that I planted last fall. Finally got the chestnuts from Grant Schultz. So there's one. That's probably an American plum. But there are about 20 or 22 new chestnuts, mostly in this back area here, going back a bit farther. So yeah, I'm excited about those. They're good genetics. They should make nice chestnuts someday. And the last thing I'll show you here, I did end up finally cutting down every other one of these red cedar trees. But of course, stupidly, when I started, I cut down the wrong one, so I actually had to cut down 2 on one end. But yeah, these were planted, I don't know what spacing, 6 feet or something originally. They were knee high when I planted them, or transplanted them. So the ones that are laying on the ground, you know, have been laid down, and then these larger ones will fill out, and in 3 to 5 years, they'll probably be growing, almost touching again. So that screen will be back, but they'll be better for it. You know, they were getting to the point where they're about to be overcrowded, and they would have had kind of a funky appearance if I let them just go at that tight spacing. So yeah, here I had to cut 2 down because I started on the wrong one, not paying attention. Okay, with this little wild serviceberry here, I will end it. Thanks for watching.